Hi. Hello, everyone. It's Mxiety. We are on tonight with the lovely licensed counselor supervisor, Nicole Richardson. Welcome, Nicole.
Hi, thank you.
So excited to have you and get to chat
And
with you.
thank you
And
for having me.
I loved getting to know you like over the phone and everything. So this is gonna be great. I'm like really excited. I'm excited to already have you on again. That's how excited I
Great.
am. Because we talked about like
Great.
4 different things that you could
We
talk
did.
about. Yeah,
In
so
like
I'm like,
half an hour. Yeah, we geeked
yeah,
out for a while.
right. So like we're gonna go, y'all. I hope you're ready. So I guess the first question is, what kind of therapist are you?
I'm a short one. No. I'm not very tall. I'm a licensed professional counselor supervisor and a licensed marriage and family therapist supervisor in the state of Texas. It's a lot of jargon. What I guess I would say that I specialize in is chemical dependence, couples that are really having a hard time but really want to make it work, and trauma, which is like a really wide net to cast.
It is. It
There's a
is.
whole lot of stuff in there.
Well, so is there like a patient that you see more, a kind of patient that you see more often at all? Like, are you more likely to see, other
Yeah.
couples or?
Oh, that's such a good question. So I used to do a lot of agency work. I worked at a couple of different agencies, and I felt like not that it was ever bad, but I felt like I kind of had the same session over and over again. And so
Mm,
when I started my private practice, it was really important to me that because it's harder for me
mm-hmm,
in some ways, but it's easier for me in other ways to have different
mm-hmm,
clients over and over again. So I joke
mm-hmm.
that I am a perfectionist in recovery. Um,
I love
so I
that. I love
love
that so much.
having I love having other perfectionists who are also in recovery because like I get it. Ugh, I get it. And yes, there is a right and wrong way to load that dishwasher. Um,
You and my husband can have a great long conversation about your dishwasher loading skills. I've literally stepped away from the dishwasher because he's been like, that's not where the forks go. And I'm like, are they going to get clean? That's all that matters. And he's like,
I
no, you're not
know.
doing it. So you just walk away. I'm just like, you know what? Sounds like you're
Yeah.
loading the dishwasher tonight.
Absolutely. And that is
Yeah.
probably the best way to handle it. Yeah.
Just let
Just
it go.
if he's got a bee in his bonnet about it, like let him do
Oh
it.
my God, being a
Yeah.
bonnet. I actually love that. I love that so much. I've never
It's
heard that
not
in my life.
oh, well, buckle up. Yeah. It's not as good as too legit to quit, but
It's true.
it
That's
is
true.
descriptive. Um so I love that. And I really love working with especially parents that wanted to make their marriage work and it just didn't, and so it's still really important for them to figure out how to co-parent, figure out how do I do life as a single parent, how do I figure out who I am again. I love those clients, and
Hmm.
I love working with couples that still love each other but don't know how to love each other well anymore. So
Hmm.
if I had to say like who's my favorite to have on the couch right now, it's those three groups.
Okay, all right. That's really interesting because I remember going into I did couples therapy with my now husband. At the time, we were just dating, and
Mm-hmm.
with his therapist was like, I don't believe that there's people who can't end up together. I don't believe that there's people who cannot get along. Because I was like, I don't think we're meant to be, and he's like, I don't know what that means. He's like, if you want to be together, you will figure out a way to be
Yes.
together. If you don't want to be together,
Yes.
then yeah,
And I think that's where the magic is. It's not like, oh, well, we weren't fated by the stars. I
sure,
don't believe in that. So I think
sure.
I agree with that therapist to that extent. But what I think the magic happens when two people are so willing to like take responsibility and what I think Brene Brown calls it radical acceptance.
Yes.
Just radically accept I messed up and I need to do something different than what I'm currently doing. Like maybe I need to let you put the forks in the wrong part of the dishwasher. Like maybe I
Ooh.
just need to do that. That would take a lot of work for me.
Listen, I understand. I might not look, I might not get hung up about the dishes in the washer, but there's other things around the house that I'm like,
Absolutely. We all have our thing.
I created this like it's become a passive aggressive joke in the house, but it started with dishwashing where my husband and I was like, you know what you could say? Not that I'm doing it wrong, because I get very tired of you telling me you're doing it wrong. You're doing it. I was like, it feels like you're always telling me that I'm doing it wrong. Say instead, that's not how I would do it. And so now he'll come up to me and half with a laugh will be like, honey, that's not how I would do it. But he says it in a way that you're like, you're mocking me. I know you're mocking me.
Yeah.
But like, so it's become like an ongoing, like, oh, that's not how I would do it. And then you'll like look at me like that. It's become like a joke, even, but it helps because then it's like the tension is broken up around it too.
Right. And I think for some of us, like if somebody said to me, that's not how I would do it, I'd be like, oh, okay, just do it my way. But I think, yes, sucks for you. But I think finding a way that like, it's okay for him to kind of say, I don't like this in a way that like, doesn't make it feel like he's like behaving like your father.
Right. Yeah. That's the other thing. And I'm like, you cannot parent me. I mean, I also... Hot. Yeah, no, it's not. After, I mean, it might be like a cute thing for like a split second, but it's not cute immediately. No. After like a month into it, you're like, I don't know. I want to be my own person. Thank you, though.
Yeah, I had a dad thinks I'm good. Next. I had one of those. No more.
But this does line up with it. Like, how do you say no? How do you kindly, it's become a passive aggressive thing, but there's gotta be like a better way to go about it, right? So like instead of me constantly feeling, if I feel like I'm constantly attacked because I'm always doing something wrong because he's a neat freak and he actually has panic disorder and OCD, and so that means that like when things aren't particular, like it makes him physically uncomfortable, right? It's not just like me being like, okay, like, you know, you didn't wash the dishes right, that kind of pisses me off, but like I can move on with my day, whereas with him he gets stuck there.
Amped up.
Yeah.
Well, so as someone who kind of does something similar, I mean, I have had to do a lot of work. That's my stuff. And so it's super unfair for me to put my stuff on someone else. So for example, I have a friend who I adore. She is amazing. She's lovely and she's kind and she's funny and she's all of these wonderful things. And she is not tidy and she knows this about herself. And so like even sitting in her car, she and I have jokes about like she gets nervous about me coming over to her house or sitting in her car because she knows that like that is not how I am. And I've had to do a lot of work on myself because I don't want my friends and family to feel self-conscious or judged or like I wouldn't want to be in their space because they are not neat freaks. They don't have a schedule for cleaning their baseboards.
Right. They don't? Sorry, go ahead. Sorry,
not everyone does that. Yeah, not everybody's like that. And so that's my thing. I needed to do a lot of work on me to figure out, okay, I want the people that I love to feel loved and not judged and not criticized by me. So I need to spend a lot of time on that. Now, when I'm stressed, when I'm scared, when I'm super anxious, when I'm in overwhelm, I do need to ask my friends and family for a little bit of grace. Now, one of the things that particular friend and I have come up with is I'm allowed to come over to her house and clean it.
Ooh, I like that. Well, with my husband, we've created like a, hey, 3 strikes, you're out kind of thing. So like, if you don't like the way I'm doing it, you're going to have to do it yourself and then you're going to get overwhelmed. So you have to let me do something.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's where the compromise comes, right? Is me being able to own, I keep everything super clean and tidy because that's part of how I manage my anxiety. It's not your job to manage my anxiety. And that's probably not how you manage your anxiety. So I can't project that onto you. I can't hold you to the expectation of like, make me feel better all the time. That's not fair. That's not fair.
Huh. I've never thought about it that way. Cause I do frequently say to, like, I literally tweeted this morning, you are not responsible. Don't feel bad for not making other people feel better. I think that was the tweet. And I say that a lot, and that is definitely the case. But like, when it comes to my husband, like I definitely have a little bit more leeway with him, and I do want him to feel good. Like I consistently want him to feel happy. And you know, if that means like putting in a fork a different way, like I'm not going to have that argument. It's fine. This makes you uncomfortable. But where I guess is that line?
Oh, and that's why talking about boundaries is so tricky, right? Because it's dynamic. So you just made a great point. What you owe me is very different than what you owe your husband.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
The expectation for you and I is pretty 50-50, and I like you a lot, but you definitely do not owe me the same stuff that you owe your husband.
Right.
And if I'm having a bad day, I probably shouldn't go to you, right? I have a close-knit group of people that I need to be calling on, and vice versa. And that doesn't mean we don't like each other. It's just the expectations are different. Mm-hmm. So you do owe your husband more. And I would say one of the tricky things about boundaries, and this is true about any relationship, whether it's professional, whether it's you and the checkout person at the grocery store, whether it's you and your spouse or your partner, it is dynamic. You know what's going on in their life, your partner. And so you know, like, ooh, he's had a really bad week. I'm going to be real careful with those forks tonight.
We're moving right now. So both of us, it's really funny because we both know what our idiosyncrasies are, right? And I have depression, anxiety. Again, he has his stuff. And so usually it's at a calm. And like, I know when to ask for help. And like, we figured it out. It's been 11 years, right? But then like high stress situation, we're moving, we're trying to sell our house. And suddenly like, I will catch us being snippy with each other about things that I'm like, I know this is not an argument anymore. I know you know how you should be behaving. Like, I know you know what the expectation is in this relationship, in this situation. And you're not giving that. We're better than this. Yeah. That's a really short, beautiful way to put it.
We're better than this.
We're better than this. What is this? What's happening? Yeah.
What's happening is you're both really stressed out.
Right.
And so it cuts both ways, right? Like, I would never encourage a couple to, like, well, you know, that pisses him off. So like, is that the hill you want to die on?
Right.
Really?
Right.
Really? Like, you know that if you put the fork there, he is going to come unglued.
Right.
So why not just put the fork where it goes, where he thinks it goes, right? It doesn't make him right. That's not the hill you want to die on. You want to argue about something. It's which house to buy, right?
Right.
Like,
right.
Argue about that.
Right.
What school district do we want to live in? Not, well, you know, you said you wouldn't put the forks there anymore. You're like, yep, I did say that.
Right. I did. Here's your fork. Here's your knife. Bye.
Right.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm out of this kitchen.
This is not the fight I want to have with you. Yeah.
No, but seriously, but one of the reasons we're moving into a bigger house is that it's a bigger kitchen. And it got to the point though where we were arguing whether this house had a bigger kitchen. I was like, it does, like, physically have a bigger the square footage is bigger. And he's like, yeah.
It's math, sweetie.
Right. And he's like, yeah, but the way it's oriented, like, we still might be in each other. I was like, no, it's a bigger kitchen. Like, this is not a conversation anymore. We're done. But so my question is, I'm happy you're having a great time. That means so much to me. So we are, I am a people pleaser. I grew up with a narcissistic stepmom who I suspect had other mental health issues, who I am not qualified to diagnose her, but at the very least, I know from her going to see doctors at some point that she's a narcissist. Just because of how indignant she was when she heard that diagnosis.
Probably some other hints too, but yeah.
But but I suspect, there was a lot of like, I didn't know how she would react to things. I didn't know what to expect of things from her, and when she would change her mood, and when, like, because I as a kid, I would be like, okay, I got this. The forks go here. I'm going to put the forks here, and she's going to be so excited, and she's going to be so glad. And I put the forks there, and she's like, why are the forks out at all? I didn't want them. They should be in this place. And you're like, oh, shit, I'm a stupid idiot, whatever, however you want to pile onto your... Sorry.
Please don't fall out of your chair.
That'd be a good show, though. But yeah,
bloopers reel.
So there should be so the handles on my chair move. We need a compilation of me doing this, because this happens way too often, and way more often than interviews, because I like to lean in an interview. Anyway, you're
Katie Couric.
Yeah, just say that. Oh man, is that how I get famous? I Katie Couric it? Yeah, I would love it. I would love it. Uh, so in her case, clearly, like, it wasn't a healthy thing to continue indulging in those behaviors. So how do you set that boundary? Especially, again, I know this is kind of multiple questions, but again, that's a relationship where I depended on her. I couldn't just be like, I'm going to the other room and I'm gonna go do X. I'm her child and I have to obey in a certain way, right? So go ahead.
So lots of layers to that particular
I know.
cake.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. So the first place I would start is, something I drive home to parents as often as I can. From my perspective, the worst thing you can do to a child, like worse than hitting them, worse than yelling at them, probably even worse than calling them names, is being unreliable. When a kid can't reasonably predict the outcome of yours or their behavior, the home is unsafe, period.
Right.
And so, the definition of a personality disorder is a pervasive view of the world. So basically, to the point of delusion, anyone with a personality disorder cannot see it from your perspective. It is just not possible. Now, when we talk about boundaries when you're living in the home, that is, I don't want to say it's impossible, because it's not, but with our primary attachment figures, it feels impossible, because we are biologically programmed to seek out comfort, to seek out attachment, to seek out safety from our primary attachment figures. So healthy boundaries with a sick primary attachment figure, good luck.
Right.
I don't mean to be flippant about that, but
no, but it was good luck. I did not. It was not a great situation. Like, bottom line, yeah.
The minute you're not in her house is the minute you have a chance to take some of your power back. But as long as you're a minor and you have no autonomy and you don't have power, it is so hard for you to get your needs met, especially when one of your primary attachment figures is sick. Now that you're out of the house, we can have a wildly different conversation, excuse me, than we could have when you were living in the house.
Right.
So, setting up healthy boundaries with her while you were living there. I don't know exactly what your resources were then, and I don't know if any of your viewers.
Oh, they were totally shit. But we can go. You can use me as a guinea pig, absolutely, because they have, like, this is the whole show, is that I talk about my experience and I ask professionals to. It's not a therapy session for me for professionals to come on. I don't want it to sound like that, but you can definitely use me as an example, and I'm open. Yes, I'm open about my experiences, and the audience knows about them and where my boundaries are, so we're good.
So if I had met you when you were, say, 15 or 16, and if you said there's nowhere else I could viably live, I have to live with this woman, and there's no way for me to have any sort of buffer from her, then I would be encouraging you to either seek out and or use other resources. So what other things can you do? And I'd be validating the crap out of your feelings of not feeling safe and feeling crazy. I had this great professor in graduate school who said, if you go through the day and you feel normal and you feel sane and people seem to generally understand what you're talking about, and then you come into interaction with this one person and the minute they leave, you feel bananas crazy, it's them. They probably have a personality disorder.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you were a teenager stuck in that home, I would just be validating, like, it's not you. Do your best to keep as much of you safe and hold things in and only share these things with other people. It's super normal to want to share with her. It's super normal to get sucked into her tractor beam, because narcissists are fantastic tractor beamers. Oh yeah,
it's definitely like she was the sun. There, I'm trying to remember who wrote the Will I Ever Be Good Enough? Kathleen.
Oh yeah. I love that book. McBride.
Yes, McBride. Thank you.
Yeah.
She she had the little description of like basically it's like a heliocentric universe in the house with one of the parents being in the middle, and then the co-parent rotating around them, and then the children having to rotate around that. versus in
Yes.
a healthy child, in a healthy home, it would kind of be there's still a hierarchy, but everybody's equal underneath.
Right. Everybody's needs are just as important as
Right.
the next person's. Mhm.
Right.
Yeah. Narcissists don't do that. In fact, anybody with a personality disorder would struggle to do that. I found this thing the other day. It said when it comes to boundaries, we all want to be known and we want to be seen and we want to feel understood, and we have to balance that need with the need of being safe or feeling safe, the perception of emotional safety. And you really cannot do that in the home with a narcissist. And McBride's book is great, so anybody who's got a narcissist in their house, I would even say anybody who's got a mom who is an addict or somebody that even has pretty severe depression.
Right. Where you end up being you're like addicted to pleasing them then. Yeah.
Right.
The codependence is the word I'm looking for. Yes.
You're codependent, you're dying for their approval, and you're not going to get it. And you're not going to get it because there's something wrong with you. You're not going to get it because they don't have it in them to give.
Right. Right.
But when we're kids, we don't have a way of knowing that. We just want safety, and part of that is making our primary attachment figures love us and feeling close to them.
So in a situation where, because we talk about this quite a bit on the show, again, some people cannot just move away from their family, but have to deal with them. But then when you do move away, I have this conversation a lot. Yes. Oh, it was incredible. It was so euphoric the day that I literally told her, she hung up on me. And I called her back and she didn't answer, and I left her a voicemail, and I was like, this is the last you'll ever hear from me. I never want to talk to you again. And I have never, that feeling of the euphoria that comes with that is nothing like you can ever describe to anybody.
No,
and yet, oh my gosh, yet the judgment for me choosing to do that and cutting her off is through the roof. I lost the rest of my family. Like So I do talk to my dad. My dad puts in half an effort. I talk to him maybe once a month, probably more like once every 2 months. He calls me on my birthday. Last year he didn't call me on my birthday. He called me on my husband's birthday. But like stuff like that. So I basically I ended up my whole father's side of the family barely talks to me. So I and it's all because I'm over dramatic. I am. So this is just the way she is. She's super dramatic. You guys know how she is. She's super dramatic. She just wants attention.
My favorite is when you get told, you know why you guys don't get along? It's because you're too much alike. Did you hear any of that?
Yeah. It's literally nails on a chalkboard right now.
Totally.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So bad. Don't.
Don't say it.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it reminds me of that graphic you were talking about, right? So do you remember the term homeostasis from intro to biology in high school, right?
Okay.
But basically everything in nature wants to stay as it is. It has its rhythm, it has its way of working, and so everything in nature wants to keep working that way. And that's true for all of our family systems as well. It is really hard to interrupt, and it's really stressful to interrupt any family system. I mean, think about the wreckage that divorce causes, even when it's super amicable, everybody's life. When it's amicable, on the rare occasions that it's actually amicable. But so your family, your dad's side of the family, has had to come up with, and I'm assuming for decades, because it sounds like she's been around for a minute, they've had to create their homeostasis with her, and they have to keep that norm going. And if you're the one challenging that homeostasis, well, it's easy to cut you out. It's easier to cut you out than it is to shift the entire dynamic of the family.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That
and
sucks.
I had to be, it does suck, but I had to be okay with it because I just couldn't have her in my life anymore. I could not have her rule my moods and my feelings. I felt like I was in addition to depression and everything, I felt like I could not just control any emotion that I was experiencing because it would immediately, she would come through and determine how I was going to feel for the rest of the day. And I just couldn't. Yeah.
No, it was time for you to take your power back.
Ooh,
or to have it.
That's another Brene Brown word. I like it. I like it. Oh my gosh. But yeah. So when we talk about these boundaries, how do we set them? Some people choose to continue to have relationships with their narcissistic parents or their narcissistic friends. You know, oh, I've known them since childhood. I couldn't let them be whatever. So when is that difference? Like, what justifies me being like, no, I can't do this anymore, versus somebody being like, no, but she's my mother. Like in this case, she wasn't my mother. So I think that probably helped. And I don't
even if she was.
Yeah. I don't talk to my birth mother much either, so that's in the same vein. But yeah, so what is the difference, and how do you set that boundary?
Well, I think it's super tricky and nuanced for everybody. I mean, I think you made a great point. What works for some isn't going to work for others, and maybe, you know, even with siblings, right? I have some clients that have struggled with something similar, and, you know, of the 3 siblings, one is completely cut off from that parent. One has maybe an enmeshed relationship, and the other one's doing the relationship hokey pokey, right? Put your right foot in, take your right foot out. I want you to call me on my birthday, and then I don't want to talk to you for 6 months. I think we all have to figure out what we are able to tolerate in our own lives. Now, when you talk about being a people pleaser, I hear, I'm a sponge. I'm going to take on your shit. I'm just going to soak it all up. Okay.
I've been called out and got called out. All of chat is like, go on.
So you may not be able to tolerate what a different person who doesn't feel like a sponge, who doesn't feel like a people pleaser, if it's really okay, if I'm really cool with you being uncomfortable, then I might be able to tolerate having you in my life. Now, once you decide, like, what can I tolerate? What, if I'm honest with myself, kind of like when we were joking about my need for cleanliness and organization, once I'm able to take responsibility for what I can and cannot do, and I'm just honest with myself, and I accept about myself what I can and cannot do, then I have to do this. I have to turn that on whoever this person is, whether it's a friend or a parent or whoever. And I have to be really honest with myself about who they are and what they can and cannot do. Because if that person, and I hate to keep picking on your stepmom, but
she's there for the example. It's her fault.
If she really can't tolerate a 10-minute phone call once a month, like if she can't give that to you, if that's not something that she can say, you know what, neither one of us was right, but I'm not wrong, and I would rather have a little bit of a relationship with you than no relationship with you, then cool. But she might not be that person. And that's something that we have to accept as well. I have to accept my own limits in any relationship, what I can and cannot give, what I can and cannot reasonably expect of myself, even on a good day. And then do that for somebody else. I can't expect you to give me something you simply do not have. And I think that's probably one of the harder parts, is really accepting the other person's limitations. I can't have a fantasy about if I could only, then you would love me better. If I could achieve this, or if I could prove that, then you would be able to love me without bounds. Well, that's not a thing. So how can you love me? Can you love me?
Wow.
Gulp.
Yeah. So, but that's the whole meeting people where they are thing, right? Yeah. Not where you want them to be, not how you dream for them to be, but like literally where they are.
And the truth is, we all have fantasies about everyone we care about. I would say we even have fantasies about people we don't like, right? And how they're going to behave in situations. We all become fortune tellers. I just know she's going to react this way. I just know he won't like it. And maybe we're right some of the time, but we're also wrong a lot of the time.
A lot of the time. Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes it's because what we want. I sometimes tell myself a story because it's how I want you to show up. Not because I have any data to support that that's how you're actually going to show up.
Got it. Yeah. Ugh is right, but like at the same time, like yeah, for real, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a ton of sense. Oh
Yeah.
boy, oh boy. Well,
I know.
I listen. I
Adjust.
didn't adjust. Yeah, I adjust all the time because ADHD is a bitch. But this is not helping. No. But I asked you to come on here and be real, so you're being real. Dacre, sorry, not sorry. Dacre, I recommend that you pose that into a question, and we could definitely ask Nicole later as we go. Yeah. So like exclamation the letter Q. Ask your questions. It keeps the conversation robust and flowing. Got involved. Yes. Trust versus expectation. Trust versus expectation. Yes, that is a conversation that we had last night. That's really interesting. With another streamer, we were talking about like, is trust like why? How this is relevant here?
Absolutely.
Jordan Lane is the other streamer, and she's a musician. She's fantastic, and she was talking about the fact that like trust is a blind thing that you just need to give. It's not, you cannot give it with any attachment, right? So she gave an example of like, let's say I give another person a package and I say, can you please deliver this to another person? And from there, so I'm trusting them with a thing that I'm asking them to do. But from there on, I cannot control what they're going to do with it. I can assume, I can hope. And so trust, her argument was that trust is this innate thing that cannot come with expectations, and that they're separate. And my argument was that trust is, I think it is the same as an expectation. It is you know, like I trust my husband not to cheat on me. That's an expectation I have of him. I trust my friends not to turn their back on me when things are bad. That's an expectation I have of them. So what do you think? Is it different, the same?
I think I'm leaning a little bit more towards your point of view. I think this is going to sound silly, but using your example of, you know, I give you a package, right? Mm-hmm. If I give FedEx a package, there's a procedure to it, right? Mm-hmm. They put a label on the package, and it has a unique code, and I can track it online, and I'm going to get updates about like, okay, it went from Austin to this place, and it ended up at Marie's house at this time, and they left it on the porch, or she signed for it, or whatever, right? There's stages, and we don't blindly trust FedEx, which is why we get a unique code that allows us to track it, because we don't trust them, and that's their job. So it makes me think trust but verify. The other thing I thought, when, you know, kind of with that example, is let's say we've been friends for 10 years, and every single thing you've ever given me I've lost. Right. Okay. And then you hand me a package and I go, I promise I'm going to deliver it.
Right. Right.
Would you trust that I'm going to do that?
No. I should not have trust, nor should I have that expectation of you. It's on me. If you don't deliver that package, well, what did you expect? To use that word again. Right.
So I think, you know, we trust that, for example, when we drive home from work, we trust that the other cars are not going to behave berserkly, right? They're going to follow the rules of the road. We're going to trust that. Mm-hmm. So do I think we need to walk around with a certain amount of blind trust? I can get down with that part of what she was saying. Yes. Mm-hmm. I think I can also say, though, with a certain amount of like comfort, yes, we need to trust, but we also should be wise and thoughtful and mindful about who and what we trust, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not trusting the car next to me not to swerve into my lane suddenly for absolutely no reason is different than kind of rolling down the window and going, hey, I'd like to share my deepest, darkest secrets with you. Yeah, we're stuck in traffic. I watched you picking your nose. You've got time. Yeah. Like there's two very different kinds of trust.
Right.
You know? And I agree that trust comes with an expectation. If I am taking this leap of faith to trust you, then my expectation is that you are going to reward me with validating that trust, right? Giving me good reason to trust you back, or to continue to trust you, rather.
That's okay. So you're bringing me to like another piece that's kind of totally not exactly the same, but but yes and no, but it goes back to like trusting a stranger we do establish trust, and we kind of break these boundaries when we do something that I have recently learned about, and definitely am ashamed to have done, but trauma bonding. That's that's a breaking of a boundary that, and it's also a forceful, not necessarily forceful, because both people usually, again, if you're bonding, the innate understanding is that both people are getting something out of it, right? But at the same time, like, how healthy is it? Let's just go there. How healthy is it that I sit here and break my boundary with X amount of internet strangers and tell them how I'm doing and tell them how I'm feeling this day in the name of breaking stigma and everything, but how, you know, and we end up bonding with each other over, like we were just talking about narcissistic parents, right? And people in the chat were like, oh my God, this is me, that happened to me. So how healthy and good is that? That, you know, I'm not rolling down the window quite yet, but I feel like that's the next step, right? Talking to internet strangers, then you just open the window and you go, hey, you driving in the car, let's talk about mental health for a second.
So again, a lot of layers to that cake. So trauma bonding is not new. It's not a new experience. I think. If you could define it, because I didn't define it, and people are asking. Oh, okay. So I think no. My quick and dirty definition of a trauma bond would be that two or more people have been through something huge and scary and awful and very intense, and they were likely either strangers or didn't know each other very well beforehand, and now they feel as though they have something in common. They have something that links them and ties them together forever. Now, sometimes that feeling lasts, and sometimes it does not. But that is usually, without a very fancy clinical or scientific definition, that's my quick and dirty definition.
Okay, fair.
Time I heard about trauma bonding was in the form of battle buddies. So men and women that deploy together and are in combat together form these, and a lot of times, especially in our country, they come from all different walks of life and from all over the country, and they can end up in a unit together and fighting a war where they absolutely never would have met in any other way.
Right.
And, you know, they deploy, they go through something difficult together, and they might not ever see each other again, but they might feel like they've got a connection, a brotherhood, a bond that they could never have with anybody else because nobody else was there on that day.
Right.
That horrible thing happened. I've also heard of it and seen it happen with some first responders. That, you know, something particularly bad happens and they're the first on the scene, and for any millions of reasons, they feel very connected to the person that they're helping, that they've responded for, and then that can become a trauma bond. Is it always bad? Absolutely not. Is it tricky? Yes, because you don't.
Tricky is where we operate here. That's right.
That's where we live. It's very tricky because you can very quickly feel like you know this person so much better than you actually do, and that's where the sticky stuff happens. When it comes together and it's symbiotic and we really can form an actual relationship out of this, rad. But if I'm projecting a lot of like love and positivity and characteristics that you just don't have and yada, yada, yada into this other person, and I'm filling in all these gaps because I think I know you really well when I don't, we are on a road to oh shit town.
Oh shit town. That's a zip code.
Shit. 6666666. When it comes to you and your show specifically, I think, you know, one of the unique things and one of the hard things about sharing yourself online the way you do is you do still get to set the boundaries. Now, will you occasionally overshare? Probably. But as I'm sure you know, and you're probably already doing, you don't, for example, post, oh, this is where my house is. Right?
For for example. Yes.
This is my address, right? So that's a boundary. You have decided to share something really hard, like the situation with your stepmom. But you still get to put some layers around that. I mentioned Brene Brown earlier, and one of her books, I think it's The Gift of Imperfection. Mm-hmm. She talks about her experience with deciding to become sober. Well, that was a share, right? She didn't need to share that with us. I think we're already pretty bought in on the Brene Brown Kool-Aid before she shared that. But the fact that she shared that little bit of her, wow, that humanized her. And wow, that made a lot of us feel like, right and wrong, I feel like I know her a lot better than I probably actually do. I don't actually know her. I know this fact about her. I don't know her. I don't know how she loads the dishwasher. I don't know what she's like when she wakes up in the morning for coffee.
Right. If you don't know how she loads the dishwasher, how can you truly trust her? That's very true. Yeah.
Well, and so it does. I mean, even though you've shared this big, hard, scary thing with people around your family of origin, it doesn't actually mean that I know you that well. I know some facts about you, but I don't actually know you that well. So you can still hold on to some boundaries. You do still get to decide what you're going to share with us, what you're not going to share with us, when you're going to share it. Gabrielle Bernstein, the author of several books, including but not limited to Spirit Junkie, had a baby a couple years ago, but she really struggled with infertility. And she decided not to share her infertility struggles until she was kind of on the other side of it.
And some people feel entitled to your struggles once you do share. There will be people who feel entitled to that. Like, oh, you didn't tell us. Oh, we were cheated. Oh, yeah. That comes with the whole public persona thing. But sorry, I derailed you. I'm sorry.
No. I think that's a great point to make. And so one of my closest friends, she's the opposite of me in 1,000 different ways. I am an external processor. When I'm having a hard day, I generally want to tell someone, like, this is happening and I don't like it. And she is the opposite. She wants to go inside of herself and figure out how she feels about it and what she needs before she tells me or anybody else. And I can't be mad at her for wanting to feel safe or feeling safe that way or feeling comfortable that way any more than she can be mad at me for wanting to verbal diarrhea on her about something that's probably stupid that I won't care about in a month. So you don't owe anybody what you're going through, and vice versa. Nobody owes you what they're going through.
But this is, it's interesting because there are it's overall an ongoing theme with streamers is the boundaries you set with your audience. Because a lot of people might not have a mental health talk show where there's 40,000 disclaimers and they make sure like, hey, I've set my boundary. If you're experiencing a suicidal episode, I will not be the person to help you. Do not, you can come to me, but I will direct you to the correct resources. I will not be talking you off a ledge. I'm not qualified to do that. So, but there are quite a few streamers who have these issues with boundaries where listen, if you're sitting and playing a video game for 4+ hours, usually 6, some people 12, you're probably going to talk about everything you're feeling and thinking and burping and whatever it is happening to your body. It's happening in real time. You cannot hide that much of it.
Nope.
Cool.
I'm a lady.
Hence reality TV.
They use the sound effect. Sorry about that. Oh. Yeah, burping. That's my burp sound. But yes. So, yeah, you guys threw me off, man. Throwing my burp in there. I should have turned it off. I didn't even think about it. It's very charming. Very charming.
Rude.
Yeah. Thank you. No, but seriously, yeah. So streamers blur these boundaries, blur these lines. Like, how do you? I guess, what is a healthy way to do? Not maybe necessarily avoid doing that, but just what is a healthier way to go about that?
Well, I think, and I will be real honest and share that I wouldn't say that I'm technology phobic, but I'm definitely technology apprehensive.
Sure, but imagine, I think it's very much, sorry. On this. Sure, no, it's fine. I can back up. I can back up in any way, shape, or form, but just go ahead.
There are parts of me that fully get it. And so, and then parts of me that fully don't. I think that in a lot of ways, streaming is sort of the new frontier. And so a lot of streamers, a lot of people like you that have these online open doors, and it is kind of, well, I shouldn't say kind of, it's largely one-sided because it's about you and your experience. Right. And people, like I was saying about Brene, I read a book about her, or I read a book that she wrote rather, and she had some personal facts in it, and like, oh, well, I know you so much better than you know me. And that's true, but not everybody has that awareness that it's one-sided. And I think part of your job, for better and for worse, is reminding yourself that this is one-sided. They know me better than I know them. And how much do I feel safe sharing? And that needle might move over time, right? You might feel like, I'm super open today. Everybody can know about my last bowel movement. I don't care. No big deal. And you might change your mind tomorrow. And that's okay. You might have to communicate that to your audience for it to feel safe for them, and for them to feel like they can trust you. But you're allowed to do that. And I think that that's because it is sort of the new frontier. I think a lot of streamers are having to figure out how much they want to share and when. And just because I did it yesterday doesn't mean I need to do it today. But when you're in this people pleaser mode, and you're in this place of, especially if you're in a place of scarcity with your business, you might feel like, well, if I pull back, I'm going to lose some audience.
Right.
And maybe that's true, but maybe that's audience you didn't want anymore.
You didn't, right. That's not healthy to have around. Right. And Wookie in the chat is making a really good point that people do feel like through gaming, through this experience, a lot of people feel like they can throw out details they might not throw out otherwise, right? It's why like YouTube chat sections are completely toxic, and why people who are in the same, for example, chat room, and they're playing games together, they're more likely, like Wookie is saying, to blurt out like, oh my god, I actually had a miscarriage yesterday, where you're like, what? Okay, I don't know how to receive this information. I thought we were just gonna like shoot this guy a bunch and then be like done with it, and I'll never talk to you again. But you are sharing. Or people will come to me and they'll be like, I've felt suicidal before, and I can do my best to validate them and make sure that they know that it's okay that they came to me with that, but also like, holy smokes, that is a huge thing that you just revealed to me. But the concept of anonymity, which is very common on these, like most streaming platforms other than Facebook, you don't use your real name. Right. So this concept of anonymity, I think, breaks a lot of boundaries for people.
And sometimes that's good, and sometimes it's bad. If I feel safe in this chat room while you're streaming and you're playing Call of Duty, that's the first game that comes to mind.
Sure.
Maybe that is the first time I have been able to articulate, either online or out loud at all, I had a miscarriage yesterday. I also have to have the awareness that while I'm streaming or watching somebody else's stream of Call of Duty, that this might not be the forum where I'm going to get my needs met.
Right.
So no shame in kind of having that share. That's cool. Like you felt safe to do it. That's awesome. But this might not be the group. And kind of like you were saying, like I try to redirect them and make sure that they know that they're, help them find resources, that kind of thing. That's awesome. Not everybody that streams has that background or that education on, like, I don't know what to tell you, or I don't know how to handle that. And should they, is it even possible to expect everybody to know? Because every once in a while we're all going to get hit with something like, oh, I don't know how to do that.
Right.
Out of my depth right now.
Right. Well, one of my goals through these streams, one of the things that I'm doing through YouTube videos is I'm trying to create mental health safety education for streamers. I've taken several courses on it, and then over the years of experience that I've had just doing it, just making sure people know what their rights are and what their like what your rights are as a human, how to step away, how to set those, like that's all stuff that's really interesting to me, and that that's what I'm focusing on with my content now. But just to answer your question, like somebody is out there doing that. But it is.
But everybody can't do it, right?
Right. No, it's true. But it's something, again, it's an undiscovered frontier. So I appreciate you commenting on it without having, 100% of all of the context that you possibly needed. So I do appreciate that. And I don't like, that was great. Thank you. That's it.
I mean, I watched, I think it was Brene Brown. I keep talking about her like I know
She's
her.
amazing. You could talk about her all you want, and clearly you do, because you know that she had a drinking problem before, and it wasn't great, but she
I'm not
got
outing her.
through
In
it.
a book.
Yeah, I know. I know. I've read. You think I haven't read all the Brene Brown books? Come on, come on.
Who are you talking to?
Who are you talking to?
After her second TED Talk, I heard her in an interview, and she said something about like, I made the mistake of going onto YouTube and reading the comments on my and so it cuts both ways. Was on I hopefully on no planet would anybody expect Brene Brown to comment on all the trolls that had nasty things to say about her appearance or her voice or her hair or stupid stuff that had nothing to do with the amazing content in the video. It's not America's Next Top Model, right? It is not about that. She was presenting, she's a really nice lady presenting her research. Like,
oh, the amount of people that come through here and are like, you're hot, you look great, or, oh, you have a big nose. Like, any of those comments, we actually had a rule. I think we still do. No comments on appearance. Because the point is, like, that's great, but this is not the forum where I care about what you think I look like. This is the forum where I want you to tell me I have a beautiful brain. Right.
This isn't a makeup blog.
Yeah. We do makeup here sometimes. Just putting that out there.
Whatever. But it's not the point of the show, right?
It's not. No, it's not. It's not.
So commenting on your appearance, I think that's a great rule, right? To kind of keep the bounds on. I think another completely reasonable rule would be we're not going to call people names. We're not going to be disrespectful. We're going to endeavor to disagree with humility. That just because I don't agree with you doesn't make me right. And just because whatever,
feelings aren't facts. You can feel a certain way about a topic,
facts.
but it does not make you right. I
feel like the forks go here, but that doesn't make me right.
No, right, exactly. I literally had this conversation with my sister yesterday, and I go to her. I was like, speaking of boundaries, I go, why did you call me about this very difficult topic? I'm not going to disclose because it's hers. It's not mine to share. Yeah. And she's like, because I know you're going to therapize the shit out of me. And I was like, you're going to a therapist. We're not going there. That is not happening. But I appreciate the fact that you think I can. But that's not what's happening. I love you to death, but that is not what's happening here.
That's cute, sis, but no.
Yeah, that's really sweet of you, but no.
But even that's supportive, right? I mean, you're holding your boundaries with your sister. Like, I'm actually not an armchair psychologist. So
right. I will give you advice as a sister, but don't you be sitting there telling me that I'm some therapy replacement, because that is not going to work. And you should go to therapy, by the way.
Right. Well, and one session wouldn't get it done anyway.
No. I love people think that it does too. Like, that's fantastic. There was, so I don't know. Did you read "You Should Talk to Someone" by Lori Gottlieb?
I've heard about it. I've heard.
Oh my, you would love it. It is so good. And she talks about the fact that she's a therapist, and she talks about her patients, and then she talks about being a patient and going to see a therapist after a very difficult breakup. And she comes into the therapist's office and she's like, I only need like 3 sessions. I'm a therapist. I know what I'm doing. I know what's going on. I need like 3 sessions here. And the other therapist is like, okay, like if that's what you think you need, that's what you need. And then she went through like a whole session. I know that's so totally off topic. I'm sorry, everyone. No. We're going to get to questions now, I swear. But yeah.
Well, obviously as a therapist, I think that's funny. And I have had that walk into my office before too. Like, oh, it's just like a breakup. So like 2 to 5 sessions and I'll be good to go.
We'll get this done. Yeah. We got this.
Just spent 10 minutes telling me how it altered your life, but you're right. We probably only need a couple of hours.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. That was so many times I've told my therapist that like, I've been like, I don't understand. I've been in therapy for 4 years. She's like, and you have 18 years of trauma. That's not how this works.
Yeah. It's probably going to take more than 6 months to undo that. Yeah.
Right. A little bit longer. Yeah. But I want to go to questions because we do have a few, and we're already kind of encroaching on your time. So if at any time you're like, no, this is it, cut me off and we will call it a day.
I'll give you my boundaries. Okay.
Give me your boundaries. You tell me to cut it out. Wait, cut it out. There you go. Yes. Okay, thank you. All right, I got this. I'm relevant. 10 years, 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's more than 10. It's way more than 10.
More than 10. It's like 30 because I'm 30 and I was born in 1990. So that's
Stop doing math. Stop doing math. Stop doing math. Yeah.
Okay, so our questions are what we're here for. Our questions are H Bat Dad asks, how do you handle a situation where there's a disruptive child and I am a quote stepdad and I'm told not to intervene, but the child needs a firmer stance?
Okay, so this is really complicated.
Take a second. Take a second. Like, because this isn't lightning round. You can take a moment to,
Well, it's complicated because it's so hard to know what's going on without context. So first of all, I think there's a huge difference between, the 5-year-old is playing in traffic and cars are coming, but I've been told not to correct the 5-year-old, so I'm going to sit here and watch it happen.
Right.
There's that, and then there's the 5-year-old is sneaking cookies and I know he's doing it, and I've been told not to correct him. Two totally different things, right?
A little bit.
Right. So I would say if it's the first one, break the rule, intervene, correct the kid, pull them out of traffic. If it's the second one, I think this is where having some really good conversations with your spouse is absolutely critical about what your role is as a step parent, because it isn't fair to say, okay, I'm going to be alone. For example, I'm going to be alone in the house with the kids and I'm not allowed to correct them. Well, hold the phone. If we left the kids with a babysitter, the babysitter would be allowed to correct them.
Right.
That's not reasonable or fair. So I would want to have some real, respectful but important dialogues about that. I would also want to say, so there's two sides of this coin. On one hand, I'm an adult and I should have some agency in how my home is run.
Right.
The other side of that coin is, I don't know how old your stepkids are, and I don't know what the circumstances of their birth parents are, but what I know is kids never have autonomy. Kids never have power. Kids never have agency in whether or not their parents get along and whether or not their parents stay together. And an atomic bomb went off in their lives when their parents split up. And then another one went off when their parents remarried. And that doesn't make step parents intrinsically bad. I don't believe that. There are some amazing step parents out there.
Absolutely.
And so you can be a really, really good step parent and they can still reject you for a while. And that isn't your fault, but it is our job as the adult to come in and act like the adult and let the kid be a spaz because they've been put through so much stuff that wasn't fair to them, period. So it's super hard. Step parents, I think that a lot of times they are really lovely, wonderful, loving, fantastic people who often get the shit end of the stick.
Right.
But that's
because you're coming in the aftermath of, like you said, an explosion.
Yes. Yeah. But that's where you have to really, really talk to your partner about, okay, I hear you. You're the parent. I get it. But what is my role here? And I can't have less power than a babysitter. Like, that's not cool.
Right. So they actually gave a little bit of context if you're interested. So
Yes,
Bad Dad said she's 10 and she purple nurpled the 7-year-old down the street.
Okay, so it wasn't in your house. So she's 10.
It's layers and layers and layers of problems here.
Yeah, I think so. Your stepdaughter is a different gender.
Right.
And she's knocking on puberty's door. What she did was absolutely wrong. I think, again, I would probably let the bio parent take the lead on that, or birth parent or primary parent, whatever
whatever you want to call it.
Purchase with.
Right.
I think you could later have dialogue around in your house around, we don't put our hands on other people without permission. And I think that is something that you can just sort of have as a rule in your house. Like, in our family, we don't put we don't touch other people without consent. In our family, we don't do that. Like that,
Mm-hmm.
you can have dialogue around. Do I think you should discipline her? Probably not. I don't know how long you've been on the scene, dad, stepdad. I don't know what you like to be called. But since it wasn't in your house, now I would say it was different. It would be, I would have a very different feeling about it if you were like standing outside in the cul-de-sac watching it all go down.
Right.
If you saw
right.
it, absolutely get on her ass and bring her inside.
Right.
And then
Right.
I'm calling your mom.
Right.
She's going to have to deal with this. That's one thing. But if you're kind of hearing about it after the fact, I would absolutely let the birth parent take the lead on that.
Okay. Okay. I think that answers your question, HFAT Dad.
I hope so.
But it sounds like there just needs to be more communication with his now wife about the whole situation and about how uncomfortable he feels. And
yeah, it's not, what she did wasn't okay. I mean, if a 17-year-old boy did that to her, say when she's, what's the age difference, 3 years, when she's 14, we might be talking about having someone arrested.
Right.
Like, it's not okay to do that.
Right.
And I am in no way condoning what she did.
Mm-hmm.
But again, unless you're there standing there watching it happen, I think that you probably do have to have a conversation with your partner and say, okay, you're going to do something, right?
Right.
How do we present a united front on this? Because I'm really not okay with what happened.
Right. Right. It's interesting. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for that amazing response.
Well, thanks.
Jinx Luckless asks, how do you deal with couples where one is much mentally healthier than the other? My significant other has mild to moderate depression, and I have trauma, history of bipolar and anxiety. How can he help me when I'm struggling without being responsible, without feeling responsible for me?
So, I mean, just from that itty bitty description, it sounds like you guys actually might be fairly well matched as far as like difficulty level, right, goes. Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to give her a gentle challenge. I think, is it a her, right?
It's a her, yeah.
Okay. I think I'm going to give her a gentle challenge. I mean, I think it's up to us to know what we need, to identify our needs. Do we want our families to magically read our minds and just know where to put the fork? You just know what I want to have for dinner? Of course we want that, but that's not fair. Mm-hmm. And so if you're in a place where you're needing extra support, extra tenderness, extra space, whatever that is, I'm going to give you the gentle challenge and say it's on you to ask for what you need. Your partner cannot divine and just know what you need.
I feel like he feels extra responsible and does too much.
Okay, well, tell him that. You're not a child.
Too easy.
Well, I mean, kind of coming back to what you said earlier, like communicate. If you feel like you're being treated like a child, tell him, I know that you love me. I see it in every act of service that you give me, and it's wonderful, and I so appreciate it, and it's one of the things that I love you for, and that's one of the reasons, like, I'm in this with both feet. I also need to be able to manage my life on my own. So here are the things that are, instead of just telling him what you don't want, tell him what you do want. I don't need you to do my laundry for me, although I think it's really awesome and sweet. What I do need is for you to maybe be mindful of, I don't know, how much noise is in the house, or how many hugs you give me in a day, or maybe don't ask me if I'm okay 8 times in a day. Tell your partner what you do need instead of what you don't need.
I like that a lot. That's very important.
Yes, I think we get a little lazy sometimes, and we focus a lot on what we don't want instead of telling our partners what we do want. I mean, if you told me, I'm really hungry, Nicole, but I don't want pasta. Cool. So
that leaves everything else that you could be eating.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. That leaves me still completely in the dark on how to make you happy.
Got it. I like that. Well, it's also a more positive period, right? Yeah.
It's more positive, it's more respectful, it's more direct, it's more all of those things.
Yeah. Dacray Icy Legend 45 asks, I sometimes feel like nobody listens to me at home. Like I ask for help with something and they just don't listen to me while I do help them, and it makes me feel bad.
It sounds like there are children in the home.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think what I'm hearing is no one listens to me. I don't feel heard. Right?
Yeah.
How can I get heard? Is that the
How do I
question?
get heard? Because I feel like I listen to everybody and I take on a lot, and I don't get, it's not reciprocated. The respect that I guess they give is not reciprocated back. That's how I'm taking it.
Okay. I think that if we're talking about respect with kids, that's really, really tricky, because while I would never advise that a child be disrespectful, what I know is that kids don't owe us stuff. They don't owe us their love. They don't owe us our they don't owe us the respect we believe we deserve. Now, we do owe them discipline and love and nurturance and support and boundaries. We owe them everything. And so I think, you can do things that help support, hey, every day at dinner, all of our devices are off. There is no computer. There is no phone. There are no TVs. Right. And we all sit and talk to each other and share our days. And you can do something like, and I encourage families to do this all the time, go around the table. And this is great for introverts. This is great for people that really struggle to share the peak and the pit of your day. And then everybody gets the same opportunity. Now, whether or not they take it is on them, right? I might not feel like sharing what my pit is for the day because I might not be ready to talk about it yet. But everybody gets a turn. And so if you practice, like in our family, everybody gets heard, and demonstrating that and modeling that in a constructive way, I think that's a step forward. Now, if we're talking about her parents, that's also tricky because I have yet to be successful in training my parents. It sounds, Marie, like you've had some struggles effectively training your parents as well. And so that's really hard. Now, if it's your partner, it is pretty different. And that does require, you do deserve to it's a partnership and you should be 50-50. And you should absolutely be able to sit down with your partner and hold his or her hand and say, look, I love you. And I am not feeling seen. I am not feeling heard. I am not feeling valued. And I want us to talk about that. So it depends on the role in the family, but it sounds like there's kids in that house.
So you're trying to tell me, hold on. Are you trying to tell me that talking to each other is a solution to most of your problems? Is that what you're trying to say?
Maybe not most, but a lot, right? I mean, I think radical acceptance, and I think taking ownership of my part is a huge thing that I can do before I open my mouth, or at least a willingness to take ownership of my part before I open my mouth is pretty key. And then, opening my mouth.
Saying stuff. Talk.
Use that noise box in the front.
I use that noise box for a lot of noise, so I hope sometimes it's productive. Does anybody have any other questions? Ask Nicole now before she fades away into
forever hold your peace.
No, because you're coming back. I'll get you back. Would it be nice to trade my dad? Classic stoic old dude, always who's not a sharer, not into connecting emotionally. Yeah, but that's one of those things that we're back to, you meet people where they are, right? Like if he's emotionally and he's stoic and all those things, then that's what you're gonna get from him, and you can't expect something else. Sorry.
Painting with really broad gender strokes. I mean, yes, exactly what you said. Also, painting with these super broad gender strokes, what we know from research is generally men bond by doing and experiencing, and women bond by sharing and collaborating and talking about feelings. Women use literally 2 to 3 times as many feeling words in a day as men. So if your dad's really stoic and quiet, maybe go do something he likes to do with him. And that might be the way to kind of get him to crack the door a little bit. And maybe he can do that, maybe he can't. You know your dad better than I do. But if that's something that if you really want to have a deeper connection with your dad, okay, meet him where he's at. And see if you can jiggle the handle a little bit. You probably still won't get your fantasy dad, but maybe you can get a little bit closer to him.
Yeah. Jinx says, I've tried telling him what I don't want there, but I have not said what I do want. So I really appreciate that idea. Thank you.
Yay!
Yay, you got an immediate thank you.
Boss them around and tell them where to put those forks.
Yeah, that's right. Tell them about those forks. I love that forks have become like a metaphor for everything here. It's amazing. This was an absolute thrill to have you on. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for letting us pick your brain. Oh, this is absolutely the best. This is gonna go up on the YouTubes, and we're gonna talk. This is great. Thank you so much for being on. I appreciate you. Thank you from everybody in chat for not only answering your questions, but for also being open. Yes.
Yay. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna let you go.
Have a good
night.
Care.
Thank you.
You too. Bye.
Bye.